while it's very early, how likely is it that Troy Franklin or Dante Thornton take over one of the starting receiver spots? Hashtag odds and audibles. I assume it's talking this year.
Yeah.
These guys are really, really good. I'm not going to be surprised if like either one of them is playing a huge role by the end of the season. With that said, like it's not like they're playing a position where Oregon has like below average like players that they'd be replacing. Like the guys they'd have to replace, like Devin Williams, Johnny Johnson, Micah Pittman, Jalen Redd, like those four guys, those are some really good players. Like Johnny Johnson and Jalen Redd have been here for a long time. They're established. They're big parts of the room in terms of being leaders. And then Devin Williams and Micah Pittman weren't that different in terms of recruiting ranking from either of these two guys. So, yeah, it would take probably quite a bit. And to me, like the biggest thing, like in the way from them doing so is not their talents or their abilities, but it's like just how good the guys around them are that they'd have to beat out. So, like, how likely is it? Like, I could see it, and probably the most direct path to this might be just like somebody gets injured or something like that. But like, I don't know, Matt, like I just think there's so much talent above these guys. It would take quite a bit for them to beat them out. But at the same time, I can't diminish. Like I was really, really impressed with how good they looked on Saturday. Like that's about as good a debut as you're going to get from wide receivers at this level.
If the question was, would Dante Thornton or Troy Franklin start a game in 2021, I would say it's extremely likely. Highly likely. And I'm not a percentage guy, but I would put it up like 90% that one of those guys starts a game in 2021. Will those guys be full-time starters? I don't think so. And I think that's kind of the range of or kind of gives you the idea of what they're going to be like, what kind of player. They're going to play a lot. There's going to be a game where they may start, or they may start 2 or 3 games, like you said, because of injury or illness or health reasons, whatever. But I don't think they're going to be a full-time starter, because we were having this conversation last year at this time about Devin Williams and Brian Addison and Micah Pittman and J.R. Waters and Lance Wilhoit stepping up and showing out and rising to the top and pushing Johnny Johnson, Jalen Redd further down the pecking order. I mean, you and I both were saying that we thought Jalen Redd and Johnny Johnson would be the opening day starters for Oregon at receiver, but that we felt like both or one of them would probably slide down the pecking order in a go-to manner, and a Devin Williams or a Micah Pittman would elevate, or Brian Addison would elevate themselves to be that go-to guy or the top 2 receiver targets at the end of the year. And that just didn't happen. A, I think because Johnny Johnson and Jalen Redd were that good, and B, the younger guys, they had, for whatever reason, some inconsistency to their fault or not to their fault. Like Pittman, it was a contact tracing thing. Like he literally couldn't get on the field because of contact tracing. And so I land with Thornton and Franklin will be key pieces to this offense. They will probably each start 1 game at minimum in this season. But to say that they're going to be full-time starters, I think that's a disservice to what Johnny Johnson and Jalen Redd and Micah Pittman and Devin Williams and Chris Hudson. I haven't even named Chris Hudson yet at this point. And this is the great thing about the receiving corps is it's completely loaded, where you've got a hard time. Like I think, Eric, 4 or 5 years ago, right? Thornton and Franklin show up and they're automatic starters.
Well, I mean, think back to the year when you had Dylan Mitchell, and it was Dylan Mitchell, and basically he was the only one who you relied upon. Mm-hmm. I mean, that wasn't that long ago. And if you were to insert those guys now, they'd probably be receivers 2 and 3 behind Dylan Mitchell. I'm just saying, like, that's how good these guys are, and that's how different the situation is. And that's why, like, I hesitate there. Like, if this was that year and the question is how likely it is, I'd say it's like 100% those guys are going to end up being, if the receiving core is what it was in 2017, like, yeah, that's going to be what, or 2018, I guess. Yeah, that's what it's going to be. But the fact that this group has really improved, and Brian McClendon and company have developed it, and you now can look up and legit go like, is Isaiah Crocker, who caught 3 passes for 60 yards, and Josh Delgado, who started games in the past, are those guys like your numbers 9 and 10 receivers on the team? I mean, that says a lot. So, yeah, to the original question, I think those guys, you can expect a lot from those guys right away, but maybe not full-time starters this fall. But the following year, when there's a little bit more opening, I think you can certainly kind
Highly
of
likely that
pencil them in
happens.
there. Yeah.